So I guess since we're all here, we're going to go ahead and get started. I wanted us to start on our backs. So please make sure that you've got 2 blocks, a blanket, and we're going to start lying on our backs. And when you find yourself on your back, make sure at least one of your blocks is very close by. And when you come onto your back, I want you to find the position that feels most appropriate to you, most comfortable to you. And the first thing that you're going to do when you find yourself on your back is fidget around until you feel like you can really just drop in and rest. And after you've done whatever movements feel good to you and you feel like you're in a place at which you can settle, I'd like you to just close the eyes if they're not already. And start to tune inward, noticing again, what it feels like to have your skull on the ground. Noticing the shoulders, if it's even on the right side and the left side. Noticing the weight in the hips, perhaps the feet or the legs, depending upon how your legs are positioned. And then I want you to take a moment to notice where you can start to soften, where you can allow maybe some muscular tension to ease and to drop. Today, we're going to work very much on this idea of being and becoming. It seems like a very interesting habit that I've been paying attention to, of this notion that very often we're struggling to get somewhere so that we can be a particular type of person or experience a particular way of being. But in order to actually become that person that we strive to be, we have to be completely present in the process of becoming. So every shape that we'll engage with today, I just encourage you to check in from moment to moment and notice where you can soften, where you can relax, even if you need to effort. How can you release some of that? Okay, let's start to build our breath. So if your legs are straight, go ahead and bend both of your knees and plant your feet firmly on the floor so they're hip distance apart. I encourage you to take one of your blocks and slide it in between your thigh bones on whatever setting feels most appropriate to you. And then you'll take a moment to notice how the feet are. Do they feel parallel towards one another? Are they close enough to your pelvis? And then you'll release the hands alongside your hips. Great. Inhale, sweep your arms up and over your head towards the floor behind you. And then exhale, slowly lower the hands back through center towards the floor. And you'll take these about 4 times. And I just encourage you to notice how you can start to lengthen the inhalation. So maybe it becomes a 6 count inhalation. And then you might notice that then you can take a 6 count exhalation. And if that feels comfortable to your body, you stay at that pace. You might extend the breath, maybe 7 counts if that feels appropriate to you today. Or then you might go all the way to 8. Now, what we're working towards is how can you soften in this? When we get into, pranayama and breath work, the biggest ask is to soften, to yield, to follow the flow of the body. Great, and this will be our last set. So the next time you inhale and reach both arms up and overhead, I want you to pause there. As you exhale, lightly squeeze your block. And then inhale, press through the feet, lift the hips up towards the sky. And as you exhale, reach out through the hands, lower your pelvis back down to the floor. We'll do 4 of these, so hands stay up and overhead. Inhale, push through the feet, lift up through the hips. As you exhale, reach out through the hands and slowly lower the spine down bone by bone. Yep, and you've got 3 more of these. And you'll just notice what it feels like to press into the soles of your feet as you hug into that block to lift the hips. And you'll notice what it feels like to really elongate through the fingertips as you articulate the spine back down to the floor. And you're just observing how we're going in and out of shapes to find that state of being and becoming. We're building our bridge quite intentionally. The next time you inhale and lift the hips high, you're going to stay there. And as you exhale, lightly squeeze into that block. Inhale, find a little bit more lift through the pelvis. And as you exhale, reach the hands through center, back towards the floor, back towards your feet. Awesome sauce. Keeping the hips high, you'll inhale, push down through the arms, lightly squeeze the block, lift the hips a little higher. And then exhale, lower the pelvis about 2 inches. And you've got about 4 more of these. So inhale, push through the feet, lift the hips, squeeze the block. And exhale, micro, lower the pelvis towards the floor. Yep. And you've got 3 more just like this, noticing how we're starting to engage and awaken the backs of the legs, the inner thighs. Noticing how you're using the breath, the act of being present in order to become a little bit stronger, a little bit more stable in the pose. This next time you lift the hips high, go ahead and pause there. You might choose to walk the shoulders even closer underneath you. You might interlace the hands. You might just press the palms down into the floor, but you've got 5 steady breaths here. And I encourage you to notice if you can continue to equally push the right and the left thigh into that block. If you can equally press into the big toe mound and spread wide into the pinky toe mound. If you notice if that sternum can lift, the chin draws towards the chest and the back of the head presses into the floor. And as you're doing all of this for these last 2 breath cycles, just notice the current state of breath, notice the current state of mind. The end of your next exhalation, you'll gently release your hands, untuck the shoulders, and slowly draw your pelvis back down to the floor. When you get back down, take a moment to pause in stillness and just notice what you notice. From here, draw the legs in towards your chest, remove that block, and you might just rock a little bit right to left. You might stay completely still. You might find that you want to take some ankle circles or something that feels appropriate to you. But you're allowing yourself to really just check in. So often in our rush to become, we're not really present in a moment-to-moment thing. So we're just going to see how that's going. All right, let's go ahead and come to a still neutral spot when you feel complete with that. Both knees still into your chest. And then I want you to sweep your arms out towards the outer edges of your shin bones and see if you can grab your knees or your feet, maybe even your big toes, depending upon how much mobility you've got. But arms stay outside of your legs. So knees are into chest, arms are outside. Yep. And then as you inhale, start to reach your legs up towards the sky, straightening them all the way. You might need to adjust the position of your hands. As you exhale, open the arms out into a V shape. Arms and legs both open to V shape. There we go. Inhale, come back through center, both legs together. And exhale, hug your knees into your chest. We're going to do that about 5 times, but we're going to add little pauses. So inhale, legs reach up towards the sky. Exhale, legs open out to the right and to the left. Pause here, take a breath in. Take a breath out. Inhale, the legs draw back towards each other, back to center. And exhale, hug the knees into the chest. Yep, we're going to build on that. So inhale, both legs come up. Exhale, the legs open wide. Inhale here, press through your heels. Exhale here, breathe deeply. Last breath cycle here, big breath in. Big breath out. Inhale, hug the legs back together. And then exhale, hug the knees into your chest. This is our last set. Inhale, straighten the legs up towards the sky. Exhale, open the legs into the V shape. We're going to stay here for 3 breath cycles. Take a big breath in. Take a big breath out. 2 more times. Inhale, press through the heels. Exhale, straighten the legs as much as feels comfortable for you. Inhale, big breath in. Exhale, big breath out. Last one. Big breath in. And big breath out. Inhale, hug the legs towards each other. And exhale, hug the knees into your chest. Awesome sauce. Go ahead and take a moment to pause here. Gently rock a little right to left if you'd like. Stay completely still if you'd like. It's totally just noticing about your current state of being and how things feel. And then when you feel complete with that, both legs come back to the floor and we'll reinsert that block in between your inner upper thighs. Okay. Once you're here, go ahead and bring your hands to the back of your head and interlace your fingertips. As you inhale, curl both elbows up towards the sky so you're cradling your head. Top of inhalation, press your low back into the floor. And as you exhale, squeeze that block. Hold the breath out and curl your tailbone up to the block. We'll do that one more time. So this time, inhale, curl your elbows up towards your knees. Exhale, imprint the low back into the floor. Lift the tailbone, squeeze the block. And then inhale, lower the head back down towards the floor. Press the low back into the floor. Exhale, curl the elbows up towards the knees. Hold the breath out, squeeze the block, lift the tail. Inhale, lower the head back down. Hold the breath, push the low back into the floor. Exhale, curl the elbows up towards your knees. Hold the breath out, squeeze the block, lift your tail to the block. And then inhale, lower back down. And exhale, pause here. So you can repeat that cycle if you'd like. To up level it, you're going to lift your shins until they're parallel to the floor. Barbie floint through your feet, so your toes are curling towards your knees, but your balls of your feet are pushing out and away, and make sure those shin bones stay parallel to the floor. Awesome sauce. Inhale here, curl your elbows up towards the sky. Hold the breath, imprint the low back into the floor. Exhale, curl elbows up towards your knees. Hold the breath out, squeeze the block, lift your tail, and then inhale, lower your head back towards the floor. Hold the breath in, push the low back into the floor. Exhale, curl elbows up towards your knees. Hold the breath out, squeeze your block, lift your tail. Inhale, lower the head back down. Hold the breath in, push the low back into the floor. Exhale, curl elbows up towards your knees. Squeeze the block, lift the tail. Nice job. Inhale, lower the head back down. Hold the breath, push the low back into the floor. Exhale, curl the elbows up towards your knees. Squeeze the block, lift the tail. We got two more. Inhale, lower the head back down. Press the low back into the floor. Exhale, curl the elbows up towards the knees. Squeeze the block, lift the tail. Hold for 3. Hold for 2. Hold for 1. Slowly lower all the way back down. Go ahead and release that block and stretch your legs long for a little stretch and release of the abs. Hopefully we got some core engagement there. I got a few nods. Okay, that's good. Thank you for the feedback. And you're just going to take a moment to pause all the efforting. Notice what you notice now. How is the body? How's the breath? Okay, we'll keep building on to that. Let's go ahead and roll over onto our abdomen. So if you need to flip around, by all means, flip around. And when you find yourself on your abdomen, we're going to take a moment to pause. So on your bellies, let's extend our arms back alongside our hips. Turn your thumbs to face the floor so your palms face towards your thighs. Great. Now from here, separate your feet until they're about hip distance apart. Awesome sauce. And let's press into the pinky toenails first. Yep, and then press into your big toenails, and then think about lengthening your tailbone straight back to your heels as your feet reach straight back. From here, draw the shoulders up towards the ears and draw the shoulder blades onto your back. Listen closely. You'll inhale, reach your fingers back to lift your head up. So fingers slide along the floor to come up. And then exhale, lower halfway. Inhale, reach back through the fingers, sliding them along the floor to lift up. And exhale, lower halfway. You've got 4 more of these. Continue to hug the shoulders onto the back, the elbows squeeze towards each other, even as you reach back through the fingers. And you'll notice that if you can continue to lengthen back through the tail and the pinky toes and the big toes, you'll find that you can find just a little bit of strength having to happen in the upper chest, in the lower back. And we're also finding a little bit more extension through our upper spine so our heart can stay open to the process of becoming and the process of being. This next time you inhale and reach back through the fingers, you'll pause there. As you exhale, hug the front ribs into the back body. Inhale, see if you can lift a little bit higher into the back bend by pressing into the toes. Exhale, front ribs draw in, tailbone lengthens back. Inhale, see if you can lift a little higher into the back bend by hugging the shoulders towards each other. Inhale, lengthen through the toes, lengthen through the crown. Exhale, low belly draws in, and here's our last one. Inhale, find a little bit more length through the top of the chest, yep, and exhale, lower all the way down. Nice job. Let's go ahead here and we'll cactus our elbows out to the right and to the left. Laura had asked for a chest stretch, so we're going to add one of those in. Now, slide your left elbow over to the left a few inches. Flare through the fingers and push down through the index finger, pinky finger, all of the tips of the fingers. Then look towards your right. Step your right hand underneath your right shoulder and start to press into that right hand as much as you want to roll towards the left. Now that top leg might bend and touch the floor behind you. It might stay long and straight, but I want you to become aware of how much you're trying to effort here and how much you're allowing yourself to soften in the process, where you can invite in a little bit more expansion by just letting go of a little bit of effort. Awesome sauce. Next in breath, let's go ahead and come back onto our abdomen. Slide that right elbow out to the right and make sure it's about 90 degrees, so it's in line with that right shoulder. And then you'll turn your gaze towards the left, step the left hand underneath the left shoulder, and then start to roll towards the right. And again, you're paying attention to what's happening on this side. How can you be alert and aware and present to what's happening, and let that inform how deep you go, how fast you go, how much you push, how much you soften. Great job. Take one more breath here. And on your next inhalation, you'll come back through your center. From here, let's place our hands right alongside our ribs, and you can plant them a little bit lower than your nipples, just a bit. And then I want you to press down into the palms, isometrically pull them apart. So hands will go right to left, and then draw the shoulders up towards the ears and draw the shoulder blades onto your back. Now lift your head just a little bit so ears are in line with shoulders. And let's start to press down into the tops of our feet. Pinky toes first, then big toes. Lengthen back through tailbone. As you inhale, pull the heart forward and through to lift as high as you wish to into your cobra. You might find that some arm strength helps there. And as you exhale, lower all the way down. Inhale, come up through hands and knees, tabletop position. And then when you're ready, you'll take a few cats and cows. If you wish to pad knees, by all means, go ahead and do that, or you can move directly into cats and cows. But I'd like you to just observe how you're going through these motions. I've been paying attention to the fact that this week we've been kind of inundated with things. There's always something for us to be doing. And it seems that the more things that we're doing, the less present and alert and aware that we are. And I think that's kind of a metaphor for our modern day life. We're always being asked to do more and more, but can we do more with a sense of awareness of what's going on in the little infinitesimal aspects of that? Okay, after you've done your cats and cows, if any other organic movement feels inviting to you, by all means, go ahead and do that. And again, you're just paying attention to what feels inviting to you. So it might be some twists. It might feel like you want to rest in child's pose. You might want to take some barrel rolls. You might want to explore a downward facing dog, but you're allowing yourself to really connect to what is happening in you. It's very interesting that I feel like a lot of spiritual traditions talk about this idea of source, of the universe, of life, of God, of whatever you want to call it, really manifesting through all of the sensations, the experiences, the thoughts, the actions that we take, We have to find the opportunity to listen in, to connect to those things, to honor them. So you've got about 2 more breath cycles doing whatever the heck you happen to be doing. And when you feel complete with that little exploration, we'll start to make our way back to a downward facing dog. So you're just making your way there. You're trusting that as you're following the impulses that feel good, you'll find a little bit more awareness of how that's going. And when you get to your down dog, for today, I'd like you to take the first 5 breaths to pedal, to fidget, to move, if that feels inviting to you, or to remain completely still. One of the aspects that I find very comforting is this notion that, well, it comes from the Bhagavad Gita. It's that yoga is skill in action. It's knowing when to move. It's knowing when to be still. Both require a certain level of awareness, a certain level of connection, a certain level of discernment. And so you're just tapping into that for you for now. Awesome sauce. And then we'll go ahead and start to build on. So let's go ahead and inhale and come forward into Falakasana plank pose. And I want you to press down through your hands, through the L shape of the hands, and see if you can notice what happens if you shift more weight to the right hand or more weight to the left hand, more weight to the right foot or more weight to the left foot, and see if you can find a balanced spot where your bum, your shoulders, and your crown are all in the same line. Yep, and it feels like your hands are equally pushing down evenly. Notice how to do that requires effort a little bit less on one side and potentially effort a little bit more on the other. Great job. Let's go ahead and add on. Take a big breath in. As you exhale, bend the knees, lift the armpits, press the hips up and back, downward facing dog. Great. Inhale, gaze to your hands. As you exhale, bend your knees and slowly make your way to the top of your space. When you get to the top of your space, separate your feet as wide as you'd like. And I'd like you to slowly bend and then straighten one leg and then the other. You're noticing how your happy hamstrings are doing. So another request was that our hamstrings were feeling pretty tight. So just noticing what that feels like as you bend one knee and then you straighten the other. Great. And then when you feel balanced and complete, let's go ahead and come to a still neutral spot. Slide your hands up your shins. Inhale, lift your spine parallel to the floor. Pause here, press the hands into the shins into the hands. Notice the weight on your feet. Notice how when we went from dynamic movement to a little bit more static movement, how your breath changed, and see if you can come back to keeping a calm, steady, active rhythm. Okay, bring one hand to one hip, bring the other hand to the other hip, and inhale, come all the way up. Lengthen the tail down, lift the sternum, and reach out through the crown of your head. Go ahead and lower the hands alongside your hips, and we'll just go through a Surya A. Inhale, circle, sweep your arms up and overhead. Exhale, fold forward at your hips, forward fold, Uttanasana. Inhale, halfway lift, Ardha Uttanasana. As you exhale, bend your knees, plant your palms, step your right leg back, low lunge, pause here, take a big breath in. Take a big breath out. Inhale, lengthen the crown forward, and then exhale, step your left foot back. Inhale here. Exhale here. Inhale, shift your weight forward. Exhale, lower all the way down to the floor. Inhale, push the hands into the floor, pull your heart forward and through baby cobra. And then exhale, lower all the way back down. Curl the toes under, push the knees into the floor and draw the shoulders onto the back. Draw the belly into the spine and inhale, come up, hands and knees. Straighten the legs long and exhale, downward facing dog. 3 breaths here. Notice where the breath is in the body. Does it feel loud? Does it feel soft? Does it feel jagged? Does it feel smooth? We just want to become aware of what's happening moment to moment, because that's where the real transformation happens. That's where the real becoming happens, is in the present moment. Inhale, gaze to your hands. Exhale, bend the knees, empty the belly, step or float, top of mat. Nice job. Inhale, halfway lift, Ardha Uttanasana. And exhale, fold all the way in. Inhale, bend the knees, sit the pelvis low, Utkatasana, chair pose. Take a breath cycle here and just notice what you notice. On your next inhalation, you'll inhale, reach up, look up, stand up. And exhale, hands through heart center. Okay, we'll try that one more time. Inhale, circle, sweep the arms up and overhead. Exhale, hinge forward at your hips, Uttanasana, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, bend your knees, plant your palms, step your left leg back. Pause here for a complete breath cycle. So you're reaching back through that left heel, you're reaching forward through your crown. At the end of your next exhalation, step your right foot back. Nice job. Take a complete breath cycle here. So a big breath in and a big breath out. Next inhalation, shift your weight forward and exhale, lower through chaturanga into cobra or up dog, whatever feels best to you. Nice job. When you're ready, you'll make your way back to down dog. So either lowering down and coming through plank or just lifting the hips up and back. And again, 3 breaths. How is it that you experience your own state of being? I've noticed that sometimes for me, I find it uncomfortable. So I have to distract myself or busy myself to really be present. But the only way to become more comfortable being present is kind of to become present. All right, let's go ahead and add on. Inhale, gaze to the top of your space. As you exhale, bend the knees, empty the belly, step or float, top of space. Nice work. Once you get there, inhale, halfway lift, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, fold in Uttanasana. Inhale, sit low, Utkatasana, chair pose. Take 2 complete breath cycles here. Notice how you can draw the front ribs in and reach up through your pinky fingers. Notice how you can still spread wide through the pinky toes as you push down through the big toes. On your next inhalation, you'll stand up, reach up, look up. And as you exhale, hands come to heart center. Pause here. Take a moment to soften or close the eyes if that's helpful. And I want you to bring your awareness to your feet. Press the palms into each other, and then you'll start to open the gaze once again. Shift all the weight to your left leg and float your right leg up parallel-ish to the floor. Flex through that right foot, noticing the wobbles, that's okay. At the end of your exhalation, you'll slowly lower that foot back down, and we'll try that on the other side. Shift the weight to the right foot, draw the low belly in, float the left leg up, push the palms into each other. Awesome sauce. Flex through that foot. Yep. And then you'll slowly lower the foot back down. Let's add on. Inhale, circle, sweep your arms up and overhead. Root down through your left foot, float your right knee up parallel-ish to the floor. As you exhale, hands come to the floor, right leg steps long and back, low lunge. Long and back, low lunge, fingers to the floor. Yeah, nice job, guys. Take a big breath in here. Take a big breath out. As you inhale, reach your heart forward. As you exhale, step that left foot back, maybe hovering it this time in that plank pose. Take a breath in here. Take a breath out here. On your next inhalation, shift the weight forward. As you exhale, lower through chaturanga. Come to an upward facing dog or cobra. And then exhale back to downward facing dog as you're ready. And you're just pausing. So how do we still remain present when there are lots of things suddenly thrown at us? That really is the question, because I think we become, well, speaking for myself, very attached to having things slow down so that we can control them. But how do we maintain that sense of Purusha, that seer, even as things are moving around? All right, let's move on. Inhale, gaze to the top of your space. As you exhale, bend the knees, empty the belly, step or float, top of mat. Nice work. Inhale, halfway lift, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, fold all the way in, Uttanasana. Inhale, sit, Utkatasana, chair pose, 3 breath cycles here. Now we've been in this shape already at least 4 times, so allow yourself to notice what has to change in this moment. The state of being allows us to make the necessary adjustments so that we can always remain in alignment with our truth, with our goals, with our aspirations in life. I believe you have 1 more inhalation and exhalation here. And then as you're ready, you'll inhale, reach up, look up, stand up. And exhale, hands will come through heart center. Take a moment to pause and just check in. We're going to do all that on the other side. Inhale, circle, sweep your arms up and over your head. As you exhale, float your left leg up and away from the floor. Inhale, find a little bit more length through the fingers, lift through that leg. As you exhale, hands come to the floor, left leg shoots back, low lunge. Nice job. Breath cycle in here. Breath cycle out. Inhale, lengthen the spine, and exhale, step that right leg back, maybe hovering it parallel to the floor. And then you'll just take your whole complete breath cycle here. On the next inhalation, you'll shift your weight forward and exhale, lower through Chaturanga. And inhale, come into an upward facing dog or cobra. And exhale back to downward facing dog. From here, either choose to stay in downward facing dog or rest for a few breaths in child's pose, but you're making the selection based upon what is needed at this moment for your being and for your body. When we're constantly moving around and doing lots of different things, we don't always check in. And sometimes that means we overpush ourselves, and sometimes that means we don't challenge ourselves enough. But we're just allowing ourselves to be, noticing what that reveals in our becoming. Okay, those of us that are in child's pose, please make your way back to downward facing dog. Great. All right. Inhale, lift your right leg up and back. As you exhale, draw that knee towards your nose and carefully plant that foot between your hands. Great. Push down into your front foot, reach back through your back foot, and then reach your crown forward. Now, just as we did at the beginning of class, I want you to sweep your arms back alongside your hips, your thumbs face down, your pinky fingers face up. Next, in-breath, squeeze the legs together and bring your spine all the way up to vertical. Great. Pause. If you'd like, interlace your hands behind your low back. Keep the palms away from each other today and hug the elbows towards each other. Lift up through the inner armpits and see if you can find a little bit more lift as though someone had suspenders underneath your armpits. Great. Next, inhalation, arms sweep forward and up and overhead. Great. And as you exhale, spin the back foot to the floor and open to warrior 2. Now notice we have not taken this transition in such a long time. How did that go? And then once you find yourself in Virabhadrasana 2, take a moment to adjust. Allow yourself to land in the shape so it feels appropriate for you. Okay, keep bending into the front knee, letting the front knee guide over the center of the foot. Great. Lower the left hand alongside the left hip. Reach the right arm up and overhead like Hamilton or Molly Shannon. And you're just finding length on that right side. Great. Next, inhalation, straighten your front leg long. As you exhale, reach forward, out, and down through your right hand to bring your right fingertips to the shin, to the block, to the floor. Your left hand stays right alongside your left hip. Yep. From there, pizza slice that left arm forward and along your ears. And then notice if you can lengthen your tailbone back as you reach forward through your left pinky finger and find a nice stretch along your left side body. Slight bend into your front knee. Hello, lats. Great. Notice your breath. Are you able to soften and smooth out the breath? Next in-breath, sweep the left arm back so it's alongside your hip. As you exhale, push through the legs, gather through the stomach, and inhale, come all the way back up to warrior two. Great. Take a breath cycle here. On your next exhalation, cartwheel the hands down to the floor and step back. You can either cycle through or not, but we'll all meet in downward facing dog. And again, you're choosing based upon the information that you're receiving in this moment. There's a lot to be said about planning and preparing for the future, but it's always something that we also need to be very married, very glued to what's happening in the present. Awesome sauce. Let's go ahead and try the other side. Inhale, lift your left leg up and back. As you exhale, left knee comes towards the nose and then quietly plant that foot between your hands. Before we go anywhere, press into both feet. Draw the outer left hip back and let the fingertips be light onto the floor. So they're there, but there's not a lot of weight. Yeah. Next inhalation, crown reaches forward. As you exhale, sweep the arms back. Hug the shoulders together. And then inhale, yep, come all the way up to vertical. Now notice how that went on this side. It's its own unique animal. If you'd like, hands will come behind your low back. Take the awkward opposite interlace and interlace the fingers. And then notice if you can lift the inner armpits, hug the elbows towards each other, hug the shoulders towards each other, keep the heels of the hands away from each other. Next in-breath, release the fingers, sweep them forward and up and overhead. Ashtha Chandrasana, nice work. And then exhale and open to Virabhadrasana 2 and take your time. This side has its own unique needs, its own unique requirements. And so you'll just notice how this goes. How is the front knee? Is it over the center of the front foot? Where is a stretch you feel on that back leg potentially? Yeah. Next in breath, lower the right hand towards the right thigh. Lift the left arm up, Molly Shannon style or Superstore. And then when you're ready, you'll start to straighten Superstore. Wow, wrong one. Straighten your front leg. Next in breath, reach forward, out and down, lowering that left hand towards the shin, the block, or the floor. And as you're here, you'll take a moment to pause. Next in breath, sweep that right arm forward and alongside your ears. Continue to lengthen your tailbone back to your inner right thigh so the outer left hip draws back. And then notice if you can rotate the abdomen towards the right. Notice the breath. Next in breath, see if you can find more length. As you exhale, sweep that right arm back. Gather the legs, gather the belly, and inhale, come back up to warrior two. Take a breath cycle here. Just notice what you notice. And then exhale, cartwheel the hands down to the floor. Cycle through an up dog or cobra if you'd like, or just meet back in downward facing dog. Great. And then we'll gently lower our knees to the mat. And I'd like you to cross or open your knees just a little wider. Step your left shin bone foot on top, or left foot on top of your right ankle. And then press yourself back to a child's pose. So it's like half navicular stretch, half child's pose. Some of you will stay right there. Some of you will walk your hands back towards your knees. and then you'll start to bring your spine up towards vertical. Great. For this navicular stretch today, I want you to notice what happens. Generally, I would have you lift your left knee since your left foot is on top. Play with that a few times, but also notice what happens if you lift your right knee. So your hands are on the floor and you're just paying attention to what that feels like. So Erica had requested that her feet were on, I'm getting a face, so I'm guessing that was a fun stretch happening there. And you're just paying attention. So sometimes it feels better to just lift. Generally, I'll have you guys lift the knee that corresponds to the top foot, but you can also lift the bottom knee and fidget around with how you're using the left navicular bone to open up the sole of your right foot. Awesome sauce. And after you've done that, you'll come forward back to hands and knees, and then we'll try child's pose on the other side. So your knees are a little wider than your hips. Your right foot comes into the sole of your left foot, and you just push back to child's pose, and you might hang out there and be like, that's an interesting stretch. You might walk the hands alongside the knees and start to press the spine up to vertical. And then again, you're playing, noticing what happens if you lift your right knee. So that's your right foot that's pressing in and down, or notice what happens if you lift your left knee. And you're fidgeting around in this one. This is really one of those things where I'm encouraging you to just explore and notice what that feels like. Okay, and then when you feel balanced between that, you'll go ahead and come back forward to hands and knees once again. This time, walk your knees, ankles, and shins together, tops of the feet on the floor, and you're just going to push back. So we normally do the counter stretch after we've done toe squat, but I want you to just do that today and notice how that feels. So we just did the navicular stretch. Now you're noticing what that feels to just lift your knees up and away from the floor. Okay, and then you'll come forward, hands and knees once again. Tuck both sets of toes under. Make sure your pinky toe hasn't escaped, and you might just keep your hands on the floor. You might bring the spine all the way up to vertical. And I want you to take whatever arm variation of choice feels good to you. So some of you might choose to just cross one arm over. Some of you might choose to take Garudasana. Some of you might choose to take Ardha Gomukhasana. Some of you might have your hands behind your low back. Again, you're paying attention to what is being called forth from your body right here, right now. Okay, and you've got about 3 more breath cycles here, so make sure you're still breathing. So amazing to watch you guys. Because we've done all of these things before, you all know how to adjust and adapt. That's freaking amazing. I love your mudra, Pam. Okay. And then when you're ready, you'll come forward, hands and knees, tops of the feet come to the floor, pitter patter those toes, having a happy little temper tantrum. Okay. And then we're going to make our way forward back into plank. I have 2 other shapes I would like us to accomplish today, but we'll see how that goes. So we'll come back to plank, and you can choose to stay in regular plank, or you can choose to stay in forearm plank, whichever one works best for you. Sometimes it feels like forearm plank's a little more intense because it gets more of your transverse abdominals. Sometimes it feels like regular plank is a little more intense. So you're just choosing what feels best to you. I'm just encouraging, or I'm just concerned about you having your core engaged before we try a few back bends. So you're going to pause and you're going to breathe and you're going to notice what you notice. And you've got about 3 more breath cycles here. Those are in forearm plank. Make sure your bum is not higher than your shoulders. Keep pushing down through your hands and arms so your inner armpits lift up. Yep. And then notice if your pelvis feels like it's slightly shifted more to the right or to the left. And you can possibly tell that by how the weight is on your feet. Yep. And when you're ready, you'll gently lower all the way down. Hooray. Okay. Hands will come back alongside our hips today. So today, again, the thumbs will point down, the pinky fingers will face up, the palms are facing in. Okay. Separate your feet about hip distance apart. Press the tops of the pinky toes down, the big toes down, lengthen your tailbone back. And then you'll start to draw the shoulders up towards the ears and draw the shoulder blades onto the back. Now notice how you can slightly bend the elbows here and maybe imaginarily hug a block between your elbows, like you're hugging a block between your shoulder blades. Let's keep that. Inhale, start to slide your fingers back along the floor to lift your head up. As you exhale, keep lengthening that tailbone back, that low belly in. Inhale, float your legs so far back that they have to float up and away from the floor. And then as you exhale, start to bend the knees and hug the heels towards your bum. And inhale, send them back. We've got 4 of these. So we're just saying hello to our hamstring once again. So you're not grabbing your ankles just yet. We're just engaging the hamstrings coming in towards us and then kicking the legs long. And as best as we can, we're trying to track it so the legs stay parallel. So if you notice your knees widening out to the right or to the left, see if you can lift a little bit more through the inner edges of the thighs so that the legs come straight back. Awesome sauce. We'll take one more in. Once the legs come in, you'll pause there for a moment, flex through the feet, reach back through the fingers, see if you can draw your shoulder blades onto your back, and then exhale, lower all the way down. So we're not going there yet. We're all in this. You're like, we know where you're going with this, Jessica. Okay. When you're ready, bend your right knee, grab your right foot with one end or both hands. And I want you to just notice what happens here. Do you need to flex the foot? Do you need to point the foot? Do you need to have the foot more in towards the midline or away? And you're just seeing what that feels like. Okay. And then you'll gently release that and we'll try the other leg. And the leg that's long, so in this instance, your right leg, make sure it's still active. So it doesn't go to sleep even though you're paying attention to the left leg. Yeah, there you go. Good job. Okay. And then gently you'll release that leg. Okay, if you liked what we did before, you can just come into locust. Otherwise, you can bend both knees and reach around and grab both feet. Okay. Listen closely before we go into this. We're going to try to mirror what we did at the very beginning of practice. So you'll inhale to lift up, you'll exhale lower halfway, and then you'll inhale and lift up again. And we're going to do that about 4 times, and then you'll hold it at the top for 4 breaths. So whenever you're ready, you'll inhale and lift up, you'll exhale and lower halfway. Then you'll inhale and lift back up. And you'll exhale and lower halfway. And you've got 2 more of those to inhale and lift up, legs stay active. Exhale and lower halfway. And last time, inhale and lift up. And exhale and lower halfway. This time as you inhale and lift up, you'll pause there. You'll lengthen back through your tail. You'll press up through the balls of your feet, pulling down through the pinky toes. And you'll notice if you can find more breath in the side body. More hugging of the elbows towards each other on the back body and the heart and sternum reaching forward. Nice job. When you're ready, you'll gently release. You'll come onto your abdomen. You'll bring an ear to the mat and you'll pause. You'll pause. You'll pause. Question to ask is, was your bow pose Dhanurasana as effortless as you might be experiencing in this moment? I probably know the answer to that, and you probably know that I know the answer to that. Bring the other ear to the mat. Our things that are heart-opening, I think, are opportunities for us to really allow our unique potential to come through. But we have to allow ourselves to soften just a little bit so that we can allow that to come through without us getting in our own way. So if you'd like, you can go ahead and try one of those back bends again. Maybe you're just like, Jessica, I'm done. And if you are, you'll just meet us back in downward facing dog. And if you do take one of those back bends again, I encourage you to notice where you can soften, where you can find a little bit more ease in the shape. It's not so important how high you are or how big the back bend is. It's more important about where you can stay soft as the heart stays open. Nice. And then when you feel complete, you'll gently release and lower down. Nice variations, guys. From here, we're going to make our way back to a downward facing dog. And this is just to traction out the spine. Long, long down dog. And when you're in down dog this time, I want you to notice if it feels like more weight is on your right hand, more weight is on your left. Do you notice if there's dumping in the heels, or is there a lightness into the heels of your hands? Can you press more down through the index fingers and lift up through the armpits as you lengthen the waist away from the shoulders, lengthen the hips away from the waist? Great. Okay. You'll gently come forward onto hands and knees and then make your way onto your bum. Swim your legs around in front of you. Okay. And then we're going to take Ardha Virasana or Ardha Supta Virasana. So you can do this in any variation that you'd like. So your legs are going to start in front of you. Let's go ahead and bend your left leg in. And then let's bring our left foot outside of our left hip. Roll over to your right hand, and you might need to bifurcate that left calf a little bit to remove some of the flesh. Some of you will then start to walk your hands back behind you, lift your pelvis, and maybe lower down onto your forearms. Some of you may lay all the way down to your back if that feels appropriate to you, but you're trying to keep the stretch in the belly of your left thigh. And if you've made it all the way onto your back and you feel like this is a piece of cake, try bending your right knee and planting the right foot on the floor. And then you might hug that right knee in towards the chest, or you might not. But we're paying attention to what is happening on the left leg. Is there too much happening near the knee, near the hip, near the top of the ankle? And you're just noticing what you notice. And each one of us is in a very different place, and that's completely perfect. It's a wonderful expression. Yeah. Okay, you've got 3 more breath cycles doing whatever the heck you happen to be doing. But I want you to notice if you can soften for these last 2 breath cycles. You might be in a crazy shape, but is the breath making it hard for you to relax and breathe? Great. Okay, so those that are on their back, the easiest way for you to get out of this might be to roll to your right and then to come up to sit. Those that are more on their forearms, you'll just push up through your hands, and then everyone will reach their left leg in front of you. And I want you to just notice what the qualitative difference is between your right and your left calf, or thigh rather. And you're just noticing what you notice. And then we'll go ahead and try that on the other side. So you'll bend your right knee, plant your right foot underneath you, grab the right ankle and swim the right ankle outside of your right hip. You might need to shift to your left hand to remove the flesh from underneath or behind your right knee. And then you might stay here. You might start to walk the hands back. And if you do start to walk the hands back, be sure to lift your butt up to the sky and curl your tailbone forward towards your knees. And you might hang out here, happy as a clam on the forearms. You might lie down on your back. Those that do lie down on the back, you might bend the left knee and plant the left foot on the floor. You might stay there, happy as a clam. You might lengthen the tailbone down towards that right knee even more, and then maybe draw that left knee towards your chest. But you're paying attention to what's happening in your right knee, your right hip. And you're just pausing and you're breathing. Okay, and you've got 3 more breath cycles here. And then how can you soften? Where can you let go? I think it's interesting. One of the definitions my teacher provided of Purusha this week I thought was interesting. So this idea of being and becoming, they're often in Samkhya philosophy thought of as Purusha, which is, consciousness, and then Prakriti, which is matter, or being is Purusha, this consciousness and becoming, or the action that we take as prakriti. In any case, your last breath cycle here, and I'll wrap up the point. If you're on your back, you'll probably roll to your left and come up. If you're on your forearms, start to push down through your hands and then come up. And then everyone sweep your right leg in front of you. Take a moment to notice the qualitative difference between the sides and see if it feels a little bit more even. And then I'd like you to sit tall for a moment in Dandasana, heart lifts, head lifts. And then you'll slowly start to make your way onto your back. So when you come onto your back, please make sure one of your blocks, or well, actually both of your blocks and your blanket are easily accessible. Okay, so one of the definitions that he provided of Purusha, I thought this was interesting. I had to write this down. He said that it's defined as our real self, our true self, the one that is always aware and sees. And I think that's honestly what many of us are in the process or hoping to do through all the actions that we take. We're hoping to become our real self, our true self, that one that is always aware and seeing the actions that we take. Okay, once you're on your back, let's go ahead and bend our knees, plant our feet onto the floor, and then you'll press through your feet and lift your hips up, and then you'll lower your butt back down. And then you'll do that one more time. We're just trying to prep the back before I have you put the block underneath your back. Okay, and then this third time you'll press up and you'll plant one or both blocks under your sacrum at whatever height feels best to you. And you're just going to take a moment to pause there. First thing you want to do is feel and receive the support of that block underneath your sacrum. Notice how that feels. You might choose to stay here. You might extend one leg long along the floor until it feels like there's a nice gentle stretch happening across the quad. You might choose to play with this, visiting both sides independently or both legs together. You might also choose instead to reach one foot up towards the sky and then the other foot up towards the sky. We've got about 3 minutes in this shape. And so I encourage you to take the time to really just land in a spot where you can experience a state of being, a state of presentness. And those of you that are in more of that supported shoulder stand or Viparita Karani, notice the activation happening through the feet, the inner rotation of the legs. Those of you whose legs are long along the floor, notice again if you can still keep the legs internally rotated, if that feels good to your spine, or if it feels better for them to just externally rotate. And you're just taking the time to pause, to breathe, to connect. Our real self, Purusha, the seer, is always aware, it's always alert. And the fun and interesting thing about it is revealed through our actions, you know? So it's not like we should stop doing anything. It's just we want to take a moment every now and again to pause so we can see, so we can really reflect on what has changed, what has been revealed as a result of our actions, of our activity. Okay, so you have about 3 to 5 more slow, steady breath cycles here. And I want you to just notice the quality of the breath. Does it feel a little bit more internal? Does it feel more shallow? Does it sound quieter? Then notice the state and the quality of your mind. Is there a lot of activity, or does it feel a little bit more settled? At the end of your next exhalation, you'll gently lower the legs down to the floor if they're up towards the sky, and it'll take a moment to pause on that block in that supported bridge shape. Press into the feet, gather the strength of the legs, lift your bum up and away from your block, and then slowly lower your pelvis back down to the floor. Pause. We started here. Notice what's happening in the spine. Now, when you're ready, you'll open the arms out to the right and to the left. And you're going to take the supine twist of your choice to the left. So legs will first go towards the left. And you're doing whichever one feels best to you. And you'll just take a few moments to pause there. And you'll just breathe. You're slowly opening up the descending colon, and you're noticing what that might feel like. And then at the end of your next exhalation, you'll gently come back up through center. You'll take a moment to pause in center to just see the effects. And then as you're ready, you'll visit the other side. And you've just got 3 to 5 slow breaths on this side. And then very gently, go ahead and inhale and come back through center. Now, I would encourage you to take Supta Baddha Konasana, but you take whatever shape feels good to you. Some of you might want to hug the knees into the chest just a little bit to release the low back if it feels like it's tight. Some of you might be straight up ready to go to Shavasana. But you're allowing yourself to settle into whatever shape is most inviting to you. And this is really one of those moments where there's nothing that you have to do in particular. You allow yourself to do what enables you to feel the most at ease. Some of our activity allows us to feel more easeful, but some of our activity causes us to feel more stressful. So hopefully this next thing that we'll do will help create a little bit more ease in the body. So we're going to end with a body scan today. And I'd like you to just start by bringing your awareness to the crown of the head. And almost like the body is a series of carbonated drinks that are fizzling away any tension. You're going to start at the crown of the head, and then you'll work down along the forehead, along the sides of the skull, the back of the skull, and you'll allow that fuzzy effervescence to just soften any tension that might be present. And then you'll continue to travel down. So maybe now you're over the bridge of the nose, the eyes, the ears. Continue to soften across the cheeks, along the mouth, again, still along the sides of the skull and the back of the skull. Traveling down towards the jaw, the back of the skull, softening through the throat, softening across the collarbones and the shoulder blades, softening down through the armpits, the upper arms, down towards the elbows, the forearms, going through the wrists, the fronts and the backs of the palms, the tips of the fingers. And then you'll continue to soften through the hands as you make your way back up through the palms, back up through the wrists. Continue to soften through the elbows, and once again near the upper arms and the chest. Come back to the center where the collarbones meet. Soften through the heart space, the front, the back, the right, the left, all of it just melts. Travel down to the bottoms of the ribs, top of the abdomen. Noticing if you can soften in the abdomen and in the low back. Softening through the lower abdomen, the pelvis, the sacrum, into the hips, into the hip sockets. Continuing to allow space and ease and lightness through the thighs, towards the knees, down through the calves, the ankles, the soles of the feet, and the tips of the toes. From here, you'll draw the awareness, the softness back up through the feet, into the ankles, allowing everything to continue to relax. Up through the calves and the shins, across the knees, up through the backs and the fronts and of the thighs, merging back into the pelvis, into the sacrum, across the lower abdomen, the middle abdomen, the upper abdomen, the lower ribs, and back into your heart space. Continue to rest here in the heart space for the next few moments, and I'll let you know when it's time to come out. Return your awareness and just take a moment to check in. Notice what you notice. If there's any part of you that longs to linger in the shape, by all means, please stay here as long as you'd like. Otherwise, you'll slowly return movement into the physical form, to stretch, to yawn, to wiggle in whatever way feels best to you. Those in stillness, stay as long as you'd like. Those in movement, start to make your way towards your right side and just hang out there for a few breaths. Gently, you'll start to make your way to a tall, comfortable seat. And then I encourage you to sit up tall and to sit up well. So elevate your bum on a block or a blanket. And our meditation for today is just going to be a few moments of you just sitting with you. So I want you to sit as tall as you can, placing the hands wherever it allows your heart to stay open. And you may notice that sitting might be hard, and if that's the case, no worries. Bring your awareness to your breath, and specifically, I want you to bring your awareness to the top part of your throat where it feels like the sinuses and the top of the throat meet. And you'll just watch the breath as it passes over that space. And your task for this is to really just notice how much you can soften any effort. So, our breath is one of those interesting functions of the body that works on its own, but we can also direct. But for this, I want you to see how much you can soften any effort that you have over the breath and just watch it as it moves over this space. If the mind wanders, no worries. You just come back to softening and watching the breath as it passes over this space. Gently guide your hands to heart center, Anjali Mudra. Press your palms into each other. Receive the weight of your thumbs into your sternum and then lift your sternum towards your thumbs. Soften your chin towards your chest, and you'll just take 3 steady breaths here, allowing your awareness to start to return more towards the external world. We'll go ahead and complete our practice with a collective breath, followed by a collective Om. Gently exhale all the breath from your mouth. Take a big breath in. Take a big breath out. Inhale for Om. Join if you'd like. Om. Namaste.